situation where there's blood in the street. We know what happened last week with Michigan State, and we're going to Rutgers. Rutgers was a really exciting team beginning of the season that I thought would have a change of fate for this year, but in all actuality, they didn't. They're still a bottom feeder right here. They're playing a awesome Michigan team who likes to run the ball and play great defense. So this is one, they could pitch a shutout right here, and we just be running the number next to we're running the number next to the under with Michigan. What you think? You think Michigan scores over 45 by themselves?
I mean, I think that's a tough thing to say, especially the respect that Harbaugh has for Greg Schiano. That's a factor that I always take into consideration because that might end up screwing you, especially when you're looking at a low total like this. Florida State screwed me. They had a minute left in the game. Could have sat down. Norvell decided to score. And then Georgia Tech even goes down and scores again. But, I mean, no respect there. You're not going to see that here in this game. You saw it last year in this game. It was 23 at halftime. And overall, Michigan just kept running the ball. I believe they ran the ball about 16 total times that game. So you saw what he was willing to do, just run out the clock. And here, Michigan, clear advantage. They got a really good defense. They're second in the nation scoring defense, only 11.5 points per game. But in their offense, albeit they get in the red zone a lot. They got one of the highest red zone attempts in the game, but one of the lowest conversion rates at almost 63%, just under 63%. So 45 attempts, only 28 touchdowns, really not getting it done. And I even remember at the end of the game last week, the announcer mentioned it. If you're not punching it in, you're not going to beat Ohio State. But it's plain and simple. So they're going to have to start punching the ball in there if they want to compete against the tougher teams. But here, going against Rutgers, I mean, it's an offense that's changing quarterbacks here, going with their youngster, the highest recruit that they've ever had at QB position in their history, and they need it. This is a team that ranks bottom of the barrel in almost every statistic, 124th passing yards per game. They're 120th in third down conversion, 124th in yards per play, just 4.1. And they don't run a whole lot of plays. They're 115th, and they run a really, really slow pace. Even with this quarterback, they're going to run a slower pace. They're 118th in seconds per play. So they're going to run the clock. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be run first because the guy's still going to learn. And it's a tough ask going against this stingy defense. Michigan also really, really methodical with the ball. They're 127th out of 131 teams in seconds per play. Another big reason, they'll just run out the clock when they got that lead. You saw it over the last two blowout victories that they've had, running the ball well over 50 times. That's something that I would expect here again. Run the ball, just keep running it and run out the clock. I like the under here quite a bit here.
Well, I'm looking at this game right here. The head-to-head on these two teams last year, 2021, and we know what kind of Michigan team we had last year, 20-13 Michigan. In 2020, I would kind of like COVID season right there. I would judge it with a grain of salt, but Michigan barely squeezed that one out in OT, 48-42. But in 2019, back when football was regular, Michigan beat them 52-0, and in 2018, Michigan beat them 42-7. So I think we got a good Michigan team that normally beats this team right here. Also on some real maybe in something exotic or maybe just kind of throwing a rock at the wall. I think Michigan can cover that 26 in this game. Nody, what you think about Michigan covering?
There's definitely a potential. I mentioned it with Illinois to Minnesota, kind of Minnesota to Michigan. These teams are built very similar. Michigan can definitely shut out this team. I will say that the youngster does spin the ball really well. He does throw the ball really well. He's got 2 weeks to prepare for this game. So does Rutgers come out a little early? Maybe, maybe they come out with a little bit of momentum there. But I think that's tough for me. I would say like on the other ones, lay the points, but 26, that's a little tight. I think that's a little hard in this one. But I'd say
go for it.
I honestly want to say Rutgers first half. Maybe the spark that they get early on with the quarterback.
hmm Well, Rutgers played some really tight games, and that's one thing I noticed at them overall is that they picked up their defense a little more than anything. And this started way back on September 17th when they played Temple 16-14. They played Iowa. That's a low-scoring team anyhow, but 10-27. Um, Ohio State 10-49. Nebraska 13-14. Illinois 24-17. So some way, somehow in there Rutgers has the ability to play some kind of defense, and they're playing at home right here. So I would expect them to bring that defense along with them and try to fend off Michigan in this one. But historically, if you want to take a historic angle on this one, I would definitely take Michigan and go ahead and lay the points. But I like your under right there. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get to the window with it, but it sounds really really solid to tell you the truth. The only thing that I'm worried about per se is, does Harbaugh feel like he's got to run it up to get in the playoffs or nothing? They're sitting in a good spot right now to go to the playoffs. Their main objective is getting past Ohio State and trying to win the Big Ten. And I don't think Rutgers is a big part of that. I don't think it's a look ahead spot or nothing like that. So I don't know. I think that 45, you're gonna really have to sit tight on your seat for that one, Noli.
Nothing new, man. Nothing new.
My man Big Ragu, he's in the chat. He says Michigan 31-10 all day. So he's authorizing it right there. And like I said, it's gonna be a tight one. That's 4 points or 5 points away from an over. But like we spoke of beginning of the show, if you want to play unders, it's something that you got to sit tight on your seat and have faith in your captain and take the good ones with the bad ones and roll it out like that. But week 10, that's another thing I talked about on some weeks back when you talk about freshmen and young players that played well early in the season. They stumble up later in the season right now because the workload of being an athlete, going to school, traveling, all that stuff, it compiles on them. And sometimes it can take away from their game and showing up late in the season. Maybe once bowl games and all that stuff, once, school slowed down and stuff like that, they could get it together. But a lot of these coaches, they try to pair them with veteran players so they can teach them how to pack and teach them how to, balance that kind of stuff out. So you could find a spot right here. Got to go through Rutgers players and see, how young are they, or how